Ephesians, you don't have to turn there, but in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 8, and in the Message Bible, it says this text, the text for this is, he climbed the high mountain. He captured the enemy and seized the booty. He handed it all out in gifts to the people. So you got to understand something. When he gave his life, he says that he captured it and gave gifts unto men. He has put within every one of us all kinds of abilities. You see, sin keeps us from doing the things God wants. But when you remember what he's done for you, it makes you do what he wants. So the excuses come out of your mouth because you recognize that the excuses have their foundation in the enemy's camp and not in God's camp. And what does it make? It makes a difference. I just went through the script to the Bible and just kind of made a little notes of a few things. What if Noah decided, well, you know, I did this thing for God, but now I've gotten drunk, so I'm no good no more. God can't use me. But Noah didn't take that attitude. He recognized I'm a vessel to be used by God. And so even though he got drunk, it didn't end him being of value to God. Abraham could have decided, well, I'm just too old for God's promises. Forget it. We will never have Isaac, and there will never be an Israel. And the whole plan can go up in smoke. I'm just too old. Isaac was considered to be like a person who has a daydreamer. He was kind of an idealistic person like his daddy. He was fearful. More than anything else, he was fearful, just like his daddy was. When he went somewhere with his wife, he acted just like his daddy. Scared. I wouldn't say he's so much of a daydreamer as he was scared. But did it mean God wasn't going to use him? His scared behavior wasn't going to become an excuse to God. Jacob was a liar. But did that mean that he could use that as an excuse for him not to be used by God? No. Joseph was abused. But I've been so abused. You just don't understand the abuse I've taken from my family and the abuse I've taken here and the abuse I've taken there. And that's why I can't. Well, last time I checked, he was abused too. But he was still used by God. Moses had a stuttering problem. See, it's like this. I want to work for the Lord. I'm not a good speaker. I just can't get up there in front of all those people. I can't say anything. You just don't know how scared I am to do that. Moses was a stutterer. Did that make him unusable by God? That excuse didn't work, did it? Gideon, he was kind of concerned too. He had a little bit of fear that what God was asking him to do wasn't going to work unless he did it the way he thought it should be done. And that was with a big army. And then again, when God started taking them numbers down, Gideon's like, oh my God, we are doomed. And in his heart, he was afraid to go further. But God had to show him, it's not about what you think, it's what I know. And so for a whole lot of us, this has sometimes been my problem. Because see, I'm a thinker. And if they don't think outright, it, to my mind, ain't going to work right. But God's saying, listen, I don't need you to be the thinker. I need you to be the doer. Gideon had to do what God wanted, not think about what God wanted. Some of you all can't get nothing done because you're too busy thinking and you ain't doing nothing. Samson. He's an interesting character. First of all, he had long hair, so that would put him out the box for a whole bunch of us, because we would think he was a hippie or something if he was in our day, walking around with his long hair. And under a Nazarene oath, he had long hair that could not be cut. God agreed with it too, by the way. And the long hair didn't get in God's way. And even when he fell into seduction, God still gave him his final trump and was used by God. And he could have stood there and said, I'll never be able to do another thing because I've totally messed up. Some of you all let your mess ups become your lifelong excuse for what you think you cannot do. Doesn't work. Okay, I got another one for you. Rahab was a prostitute. She made her buck on her back. When the time came for the Lord to use this woman, he didn't use her after she came to know him. He used her while she was still on her back making her buck. But she had enough sense to recognize that even though her life was out of order, she knew when she was hearing that God was in control. God honored her belief in him being God and turned around and forgave her of her prostitution and turned around and used her to save her family and then added her to the lineage of the life of Jesus Christ. She's his what? Great-great-grandmama? Great-grandmama. She falls under there with David. Hello. Now she can say, well, I'm just a prostitute. I'm not fit to marry an Israeli. He's one of God's people. How could he want to be with me? Humbug. I know that's a Christian Christmas expression, but that's humbug stuff. You know why? That would have been an excuse. You know, I'm going to tell you something. Some of you ladies, you don't get a quality person in your life because you treat yourself like you're not quality. Rahab could have been considered as a less than quality woman, but she got her a quality husband. Because you know she recognized God of Israel is the only God. When you start to recognize that God can change a life, including yours, you don't sell yourself cheap. You recognize that you have worth. You don't go around with the excuse, this is all I know, this is all I've done, this is all I've seen. Humbug. No more excuses. Jeremiah, Old Testament. Timothy, New Testament. Both of them. Jeremiah felt like he was too young to do what God wanted. People looked at Timothy as if he was too young. But let me show you something. You can't go to God and say, I tried that on God too. He took me straight to Jeremiah. God's not going to let the excuse of your youth excuse you from acting holy and being what he called you to be and for doing what he wants you to do. You have no excuse to kick your heels up, young people, and go to school and act like you don't know who Jesus is because you want to identify with sinners. You need to go to school and let the school people know I'm saved. I'm not talking about becoming an irritant, but they can surely look at your life. I didn't run around school at Washington High School telling them I'm saved. I didn't have to do that. It's the way you operate tells a story. I was telling my husband, I said, when I was in high school, the high school guys didn't date me. They figured they called me the church girl. I didn't advertise it. They knew it. You make the excuse that, you know, I'm going to tell y'all something. I agree that there's things that we have the freedom to do, but some of you all, I know why the church of old kept the ropes on you and kept you clamped down. And because you all don't know the difference between how much and how little. I said this the other week. But see, so we can't make excuses and say, well, you can't do this and you can't do that because we're afraid that you're going to sin. What we need to teach you is how to stop having an excuse to sin and recognize what your weaknesses and strengths are and put your weaknesses before God in prayer and say, Lord, I know the word says that when I'm weak, then am I strong. And I recognize that since I remember what you did at the cross, I'm not going to excuse my weaknesses. Well, I'm young and I want to have fun. And I ain't having no fun being in church. Let me tell you something. Try hell on for size and see how much fun that is.